Hey, this is Pierre Udaco talking. I wanted to talk about this topic that I use a lot, which are surveys. In the methodology, we start with assessment, so we discuss with the project team to understand the context. Then we do interviews to have the perspective from the end users. Having a panel of end users you can interview will help you to identify the patterns, the problems, the struggles, the pains, the potential resistance. But then when you want to have a better understanding at the scale of an organization, then the only tool you can use is survey because you're not going to do interviews for everybody in the organization. So you do a survey based on what you found during the interviews to see if there's really a pattern in how people are working, for example, collaborating. And so the way I built the survey, so first I try to stay in under 20 questions because there's definitely a survey fatigue. Um, and the way I organize it is I try to measure things. So it's close questions. So for example, I ask, what tool people are using and what is critical for them, or if they're not using it, if they use it rarely, or if they use it daily, or if it's critical to understand, what are they doing today with the technology or other topic. I'm measuring, so it's closed questions. They can choose an answer with different ranking. I ask them also to rank some questions like in these among these features, what will be the most useful to you? And so we have a ranking of what people are expecting to be beneficial for them, and other questions like that, close questions where people rank things basically, what training they will assist. So how much time will they devote to learn, stuff like that. So that's the quantitative questions, and then there are open-ended questions that are very useful too, because that's where people are going to express uh, potentially resistance or struggles, pains, expectations. So having open-ended questions help you to gather some feedback. It can be a lot. If you have a large organization, it can be very complicated to analyze, but at least you have some behavioral answers that way. For example, ask question, what is your main struggle regarding collaboration? And you have a lot of insightful indicators. And with some tools, you can see some trends with what words are coming the most of the time. So closed question, open-ended question, closed question to measure trends, open-ended questions is to have a better feeling of, resistance, pains, patterns, and it's very, very instructive. You cannot read all the answers, but after reading some, you can start to see if things are repeating over and over. And you have a good, actually, you also, there's a question I always ask is um, if you had any question to ask about the project, what will it be? So you can also anticipate the questions people are going to have before the project. So you can then reassure them before the project, answering those questions proactively. And sometimes it's a really basic question. It's most of the time it's when this project is going to start, or but there's all other basic question about the change, and you don't think about those questions, and you need to address them, even if they're simple, because it will decrease the stress of people. So surveys to me are very a key element of the OCM methodology in the assessment phase, just to anticipate what is important for people, what are they doing at the scale of the organization. The 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 modality of the survey is one modality is, or one element that I discuss with the customers, who you send this survey to. So my recommendation is try to send it to the maximum of people. If there's a survey fatigue, you might want to just target the people who are representing the workforce. But it depends. It will show how committed is the organization. If they just want to send it to a few people, that probably means that the project team is not that committed to the change. So if you send it to everybody, what's really important, even if you send it just to a few people, it's the way you communicate about the survey. What does it mean? Why do we ask people to spend sometimes 15 minutes max? Um, so it's important first who's going to send the survey, just to be sure, because it's probably going to be sent by email. Um, so you want to be sure people don't zap the email. Oh, another survey. So if it's sent by somebody who has influence, you have a better reach. So it's better to send it through the exec sponsor, um, or to even ask maybe managers to relay it. But what is even more important is to make people understand what is it for them, what's in it for them, what is the benefit of spending 15 minutes for me, as an individual. I have a lot on my plate, and you're asking me a new survey, and I'm used to answers to answer survey, and I don't know, what is the actionable items after that. I don't see any results. I don't see any change. I don't see you taking uh, into account what I've said in my survey. So there's a lot of frustration with surveys. So it's really key to explain what you're trying to achieve. It's also key to explain that it's for their benefit. So I like to say, for example, help us to help you. Uh, but when you're doing that, that means you need to take into account what they're saying, and they need to see the translation of what they say in actions. So, for example, when they're saying things about the project, if they have questions, you need to address those questions. Maybe not all of them, but some of them are, I would say, a good number of them. You can proactively say, okay, we heard you during the survey. You had that kind of questions. We invite you to a session where we can answer some of those questions, or you can, communicate in an email. The main questions that are coming back are these ones. So here are answers, but feel free to come and feel free to contact us. But also, um, you need to when people are asking something and you don't want to provide a good example that happens often is um, people want to have access remotely to their environment from home. So and there's some security constraints where you don't want people to download on their personal computer documents that are sensitive. So you're not going to tell them, no, we're not going to do that. But you need to be transparent. You need to explain under what condition people can access to documents outside of your network. What is the reasoning for that? Even if the people disagree, at least they understand there's a reasoning. It doesn't come from nowhere. So it's that taking into account the survey results to have some sort of feedback. Either it's a communications feedback, or either you put it in action. If you ask people what kind of training they will like, and you're gonna tell them from your survey, here what the results are regarding the training you're expecting. This is what we're gonna provide in what order, because it depends on the answers we had. Sometimes you can even it takes more time. It's more complex. It depends on how much energy you want to devote in this change. But you can segment. I've asked the first question you can ask is about the person, what we call the persona. So it could be what departments are you in, and you can then filter by department, the answer by department, and adjust, for example, the turning depending on the department. It can be very time consuming if you're a big organization, very complicated. So maybe at first you look at the mass, not so much at the specifics, but maybe after a few steps, after a few months, you can start to dig into a specific department and adjust what kind of training you're going to provide to them. So that's the modality is important. Who sent it, how you communicate about the survey, what's in it for the people, why you're doing this, why you're doing this, and how you're going to act on it, and act on it, act on the result of the survey. I will say, I think it's very rare, unfortunately, but I think it is very powerful to share the result of the survey with everybody, so people don't have any surprise if they feel that they have a specific need, but everybody else is saying something else. They might change their way of seeing things. Definitely, you need to look at if there's no sensitive information that you want to share, but in general, there's nothing sensitive. So it's really key to be able to act and transparently and you don't have to agree with everything that is expected. You need just to explain why you didn't make this choice that people are asking for, or explain the reasoning. So that's important in the survey. Um, Last thing I wanted to talk um, about the survey. So after building your plan that reflects some elements you identify in the survey, um, it's really key to, I will say, to keep this habit of some sort of dialogue with the end users. A survey is a dialogue, even if it's just one way. But if you show the results, how you're going to act on it, it starts a dialogue. But it's better to have a real dialogue. So having a community, not maybe not with everybody, but with maybe with champions, keeping this dialogue of, we listen to you, we heard you, and we act on it. We might not act on everything. We prioritize. That's why we're doing focus group, to identify the priority. But we prioritize based on different constraints: budget constraint, time constraint, resource constraints. Um, so it's important to maintain this dialogue, saying, okay, we didn't do everything that was claimed in the survey, but let's keep on this dialogue to see when we're ready to do that. What are the next steps? What are the maybe new findings, new things that people are expecting? So keeping this dialogue and having sometimes small survey, maybe not as big as, not for the whole organization, maybe for a department or for a team, or through champions lenses, but having this, keeping this dialogue by asking. And again, to me, asking is not agreeing, but it's important. It's important to be transparent in this dialogue and explain, what made you make a decision, what what led you to make a decision. So this is really important, and the survey is a key element. What I will say, a successful survey in our digital era, and you might be shocked by that, but I will say when you have 30% of respondents, it's a success. It's over the bell curve, it's over the early adopters, so you still have early followers who are answering the survey. So 30% is a good representation of the workforce, actually. So it can give you a lot of information. And final point on the survey is very powerful because when you're transparent, when you explain things, you can say, we made this decision. Actually, it's not us who made the decision, it's you. You told us. That's why we're doing this. And when people hear that, we're doing this because of what people have said, even if as an individual I may not agree with all the other people, but the majority of people are saying that. So it's easier for me as an individual to comply, to understand, to buy in, and to change. So it's really powerful because when you're able to say to your workforce, we heard you, we take action, and those actions are based on what you said, that's definitely uh, the best path for success. Might not work all the time, but it's the best path to success to hear people, what the people are saying, what they're expecting, where they're struggling, and to address that with a solution and to adjust that along the way. Hope this survey presentation um, in the OCM assessment phase can help some of you.